Welcome back, deep divers. Ready for another fascinating journey into the world of knowledge?
Always.
Well, today we're diving deep into the life and works of a true American literary giant, John Steinbeck.
Oh, I love Steinbeck.
Right. But we're going beyond the usual grapes of wrath, Steinbeck, you
Yeah.
know? We're digging into some lesser known
I
facts,
like it already.
using a fantastic podcast episode about his life as our main source to get a well rounded picture.
Sounds good.
So buckle up because we're about to uncover some surprising details, maybe even a little bit of espionage along the way.
Espionage. Now you've got me intrigued.
Oh, you'll see. But first, let's rewind back to Steinbeck's beginnings in Salinas Valley, California.
Ah, Salinas. Beautiful countryside.
Right. Imagine young Steinbeck, kind of a solitary kid, spending his days exploring those dramatic California landscapes. You know, the
And
mountains.
the coastlines.
Yeah, sounds idyllic, right?
It does.
But life wasn't always easy for him.
No, not at all. His family faced some real financial struggles, especially after his father lost his job.
That must have been tough.
It was. And, those early experiences with hardship really had a profound impact on him.
Yeah, you can definitely see that empathy for working class people woven throughout his writing.
Absolutely.
Mm.
But it wasn't all doom and gloom. His mother was a teacher,
Mhm.
and she really instilled in him a deep love for reading and writing.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It is. That kind of nurturing environment played a key role in his development.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, that path led him to Stanford University.
Stanford, you'd think, okay, here's where the classic great author story takes off, right? But Steinbeck wasn't exactly a model student, was he?
No, not in the traditional sense. He did well in writing classes, of course.
Of course.
But the whole structure of academia, not really his thing. He actually dropped out of Stanford multiple times, took on various jobs. You can actually see echoes of those experiences in his later writing.
It's fascinating how life experiences shape a writer's voice. It's like he needed to live outside the classroom to really find his own. And speaking of finding his voice, his time in New York City is particularly interesting, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. That period was pivotal for Steinbeck.
Yeah.
Imagine him working construction on Madison Square Garden, right in the heart of all that grit and energy.
Wow.
Then he tries his hand at journalism, lands a job as a newspaper reporter.
Okay, this is it.
You'd think.
Yeah.
But get this, he gets fired for his writing style.
No way. Fired for being too good of a writer. That's wild.
I know, right? It really shows you how unique his voice was, even back then.
Yeah.
But those years in New York were crucial. The city's energy, the struggles of everyday people, all of that seeped into his writing.
It's like the city itself became a character in his development.
Yeah, I like that.
And then he heads back to California and finds himself drawn to Canary Row.
Ah, Canary Row.
It's a vibrant, slightly offbeat community. It seemed like this place was more than just a setting for his stories. It was a source of inspiration.
It was. Canary Row was like a microcosm of society. You had fishermen, you had artists, you had those living on the fringes.
Everyone.
Exactly. And Steinbeck had this incredible ability to capture all the nuances of that community.
That's what makes his writing so compelling.
Agreed.
And it's in Canary Row that he meets Ed Ricketts, the marine biologist.
A fascinating guy.
This friendship seems to have been a turning point, both personally and creatively, don't you think?
Absolutely. Ricketts wasn't just a friend. He was an intellectual soulmate. They were both deeply interested in science, philosophy, that interconnectedness of life.
You can definitely see Ricketts' influence throughout Steinbeck's work.
Oh, yeah. In his themes, even inspiring some of his most beloved characters.
Like Doc in Canary Row.
Exactly.
Wise, compassionate, a true observer of humanity. It adds a whole new layer knowing that character was based on a real person.
Doesn't it? Someone who shared Steinbeck's passions, his intellectual curiosity.
Amazing. And this is just the beginning, folks. We haven't even touched on the challenges, the rejections, those personal struggles that shaped Steinbeck.
All those experiences were crucial. They tested his resilience and fueled his determination to be heard. And ultimately, they led him to create some of the most powerful and enduring works of American literature.
That's for sure. So we've got Steinbeck back in California, immersed in this vibrant community, finding his stride, but also hitting some roadblocks along the way, right? Critical acclaim, but not widespread success. And then, to top it all off, the Great Depression hits.
Yeah, the 1930s were a turning point for him, both personally and professionally. He and Carol were struggling financially, had to move back in with his parents for a while. But, this period of hardship also coincided with a real deepening of his social conscience. a shift that would have a huge impact on his writing.
I can see Carol's influence here. She was involved with the Communist Party for a bit, wasn't she?
She was, yeah. And while Steinbeck himself never officially joined the party, her exposure to those ideas definitely shaped his thinking.
It makes sense. He started seeing the world through a different lens, one focused on social and economic injustices. And that aligns perfectly with his time in Canary Row. He wasn't just there for the atmosphere.
No, not at all. Canary Row was like a living laboratory of human experience for him.
He was surrounded by people from all walks of life, fishermen, prostitutes, migrant workers, all of them.
He absorbed their stories, their struggles, their resilience. He even became a regular at a local diner. Maria's Diner, I think it was. Just sat there, listened to the conversations, gathered material for his writing.
It's almost like Canary Row became his muse. And his friendship with Ed Ricketts continues to deepen during this time, too. It wasn't just a casual friendship, was it?
Oh, no, not at all. They were intellectual equals, really pushing each other's thinking. Steinbeck once said, listening to Ricketts talk was like hearing myself think aloud, only more clearly.
Wow. That's a pretty powerful statement.
It is. They challenged each other, debated ideas, really explored the big questions about life, science, the whole human condition.
And of course, they knew how to have a good time, too. Tell me about those legendary parties. I'm picturing like intellectuals fueled by a bootleg whiskey, debating philosophy late into the night.
You're not far off. They were known for their lively discussions, music, and a certain unconventionality.
Sounds like my kind of party. But even with all this intellectual and creative flourishing, things weren't exactly smooth sailing in Steinbeck's personal life. His marriage to Carol starts to unravel around this time.
Yeah. The financial strain was definitely a factor, and perhaps their worldviews were diverging a bit. There were even rumors of infidelity on both sides.
It's a reminder that even the greatest minds, the most talented artists, they're still human, right?
Exactly. They go through the same ups and downs as anyone else.
So it's during this time, amidst all this personal turmoil and a growing awareness of social injustice, that Steinbeck achieves his first real taste of commercial success.
Right. Tortilla Flat, inspired by the tales he gathered in and around Salinas.
I love that book.
It became a bestseller and even caught the attention of Hollywood.
Oh, wow.
Paramount Pictures bought the film rights, gave Steinbeck some much-needed financial stability.
It's amazing how those stories, those glimpses into the lives of ordinary people, resonated so deeply with readers.
They did. And that success really paved the way for some of his most powerful works.
Because Tortilla Flat was just the beginning.
Right. His next novel, In Dubious Battle, really solidified his reputation as a writer who understood the working class.
He wasn't afraid to tackle those tough topics like labor exploitation and social unrest.
He wasn't. And then, of course, there's Of Mice and Men.
A classic.
It's a masterpiece of empathy and compassion.
Heartbreaking and hopeful at the same time.
Exactly. He captured the dreams and struggles of those living on the margins of society.
And it was an instant bestseller.
Even earned praise from Eleanor Roosevelt.
Whoa, that's high praise.
It is. But it was also controversial.
Right, I remember that.
The language, the depiction of violence, some people were outraged.
Tried to ban it from schools and libraries.
Yep. A reminder that art, especially art that challenges the status quo, can be met with resistance.
That's for sure. And then 1939 rolls around and Steinbeck publishes The Grapes of Wrath.
His most famous work.
It's hard to overstate the impact of that book. It captured the hardships of the Dust Bowl migration so powerfully.
It became a symbol of the entire era.
The Joad family's journey resonated with so many people who were also struggling during the Depression.
And his research was meticulous. Interviews with migrant workers, visits to those Dust Bowl camps. It gave the story such authenticity.
And that ending, so powerful, so poignant, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit.
It is. But there was controversy too, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Banned in some places.
People thought it was too critical of capitalism, too sympathetic to the working class.
It sparked debates about the role of government in addressing poverty and social injustice.
It's almost like Steinbeck tapped into something larger than himself, something that spoke to the anxieties and hopes of an entire nation.
That's exactly what makes The Grapes of Wrath so enduring. It's not just a story about one family. It's a reflection on the American dream, the struggles and triumphs of those who are striving for a better life.
Themes that are still relevant today. And it's incredible how he manages to weave these personal stories into a larger social commentary. But just as his career reaches this incredible peak, his personal life takes another turn.
It does. The pressure of fame, the strain of their relationship, it all led to the end of his marriage with Carol.
Must have been a bittersweet time for him, achieving this incredible literary success but losing such a significant relationship.
It must have been.
It's a reminder that life is full of complexities. But amidst all of this, Steinbeck finds love again, this time with Gwyn Conger, a young actress and singer.
And Gwyn, like Carol, would play a key role in supporting his writing career. And then World War II erupts. A new chapter begins for Steinbeck, a chapter that would test his courage, his convictions, his commitment to using his voice to speak truth to power.
So here we are, World War II is breaking out, and we've got Steinbeck, newly married to Gwyn. I can only imagine how deeply this global conflict must have affected him, given his strong sense of social justice.
It did. It really did. The rise of fascism absolutely horrified him. He felt this urge to contribute to the war effort. And actually, he ended up being recruited by the Office of Strategic Services.
The OSS.
Yeah, the precursor to the CIA, to work in propaganda information warfare.
Wow. A novelist turned secret agent. That's a heck of a twist.
I know. The details of his involvement are still kind of hush-hush, but you can see how this experience impacted him.
I bet. Did it inspire any of his writing?
It did. The Moon is Down. It's a novel about a European town resisting occupation by a Nazi-like regime,
Yeah.
directly inspired by his wartime work.
He wanted to boost morale both at home and for those resisting in Europe.
Exactly. And it resonated. Sold over 1 million copies.
Wow. It's amazing how he used his storytelling abilities to contribute to something so much bigger than himself. But even while he's actively supporting the war effort, he runs into some unexpected challenges.
He does. J. Edgar Hoover, the head of the FBI,
Oh, yeah.
notoriously suspicious of anyone with leftist leanings.
Right.
And Steinbeck's past associations with those ideas, his socially conscious writing, it put him right on the FBI's radar.
No way. They were watching him.
They put him under surveillance.
Wow. Talk about a conflict wanting to serve your country but being scrutinized by your own government. That must have been so frustrating for him.
It was. He felt like his patriotism was being questioned unfairly. He even wrote to the Attorney General about it, the constant FBI surveillance. But even with all that scrutiny, his desire to understand the war firsthand, well, it pulled him back to the front lines.
He goes back to being a war correspondent, right?
Yeah. Yep. For the New York Herald Tribune this time, traveled to England, North Africa. He even went on some pretty dangerous missions, including this daring raid on a German-occupied island off the coast of Italy with Douglas Fairbanks Jr.
Get out of here. From struggling writer to hanging out with Hollywood stars on a secret mission, Steinbeck's life just never slows down. But those experiences, they must have taken a toll.
They did, witnessing the brutality of war firsthand, the courage and sacrifice of the soldiers, the impact on civilians. When he returned home in 1943, he was exhausted, physically and emotionally. He had hearing loss, struggled with anxiety, even depression.
Yeah, I can see how that would happen after what he went through. But even amidst those struggles, he finds solace in his writing. And this time, he turns back to Canary Row.
He does. In 1944, he and Gwyn head back to Pacific Grove, seeking comfort in familiar surroundings. And he shares his latest manuscript with Ed Ricketts.
Canary Row.
Yes, a heartwarming tribute to that community, the community that had inspired him so much.
It's beautiful how he comes full circle, finding comfort in the place where he really found his voice. But this period, this time of creative renewal, it's overshadowed by tragedy.
It is. 1948. Ed Ricketts is killed in a car accident.
Oh, no.
It devastated Steinbeck. He fell into a deep depression. His marriage to Gwyn falls apart. He just couldn't cope with the grief.
That's so sad. Such a loss. But from that darkness, from that pain, comes East of Eden.
One of his most ambitious novels. This sweeping saga, exploring family, sin, redemption, drawing inspiration from his own family history.
He poured his heart and soul into that book.
He did. And it resonated with readers.
Yeah.
Became a bestseller, solidified his status as a true literary icon.
It's like he channeled all that personal pain into this incredibly beautiful and insightful work. But even with this success, his health continues to decline.
Yeah, in 1959, he has a minor stroke, a stark reminder of his own mortality.
It makes you reevaluate things.
It does. And he felt this growing disconnect from the America that he had portrayed in his earlier works.
But so he sets out to rediscover his country.
Exactly. 1960. Cross-country road trip with his poodle, Charlie. It became Travels with Charlie.
I love that book.
Such a poignant, insightful account of his attempt to reconnect with the heartland of America.
To see how it had changed.
Yeah. And in the middle of all of this, he receives the highest honor a writer can get, the Nobel Prize in Literature.
1962, what an incredible journey. From struggling writer to Nobel laureate, experiencing both immense success and such profound
It
loss.
really is. And even in his later years, he doesn't shy away from difficult topics. He goes back to war reporting during the Vietnam War.
I was just thinking about that. Didn't his son serve in Vietnam?
They did. And despite his age, his declining health, he felt compelled to bear witness to the human cost of that conflict.
He went to Vietnam in 67.
He did, filing dispatches, offering a critical perspective on the war, expressing deep empathy for those young soldiers caught in the crossfire.
It's a testament to his commitment to social justice, his belief in the power of storytelling. Sadly, this would be his final act on the world stage.
It was. John Steinbeck passed away in 1968, at the age of 66, leaving behind an incredible legacy, a legacy that continues to inspire us, challenge us.
His novels, his short stories, his essays, they've touched so many lives, offering profound insights into what it means to be human.
He captured the struggles and triumphs of everyday people, shined a light on social injustices, celebrated the resilience of the human spirit. And his work, it just continues to resonate with readers across generations.
It really does. Well, folks, that brings our John Steinbeck deep dive to a close. I hope you enjoyed exploring the life of this true American literary giant with us today.
I know I did, and I hope this inspires you to pick up one of his books, discover something new. His stories offer such a unique glimpse into his brilliant mind and his compassionate heart.
And if you're really wanting to delve deeper, check out the Steinbeck Center in Salinas, California. It's a fantastic resource for anyone who wants to learn more about his life, his influences, the region that inspired so much of his work.
It's a wonderful testament to his enduring legacy, his impact on American literature and culture.
Well, that about wraps it up for today.
Until next time, keep diving deep and keep those minds curious.
See you on the next deep dive.